Edward Kenway was a huge part of the Assassin Order, and his death in 1735 shaped so many characters and stories moving forward from that point. But today, I want to talk about what if Edward Kenway wasn't assassinated by Birch's mercenaries. This topic was chosen by a vote I made over on Twitter. If you want to be involved in future votes, then go ahead and follow my Twitter. My link is in the description. You can vote for future topics and videos, including what if. But without further ado, let's go ahead and let's hop back into Assassin's Creed What If. So the moment for me that caused Edward to fall was when he rushed into the game room. However, his concentration was broken by Haytham, which caused him to lose the battle. My alternate story begins with Haytham not distracting Edward and him managing to defeat both of the attackers. After the long battle, Edward would dispatch both men remaining in the games room. He'd leave one alive for questioning about who sent him and what their plans were. After a few hours of grueling questioning, the man would reveal it was indeed Reginald Birch, Templar Grand Master, that sent them in order to acquire Edward's journal. At this point, Edward would turn to the Brotherhood and ask Miko for safety for his family, while he planned to track down and finally put a stop to Reginald Birch and his Templars. Jennifer took to this greatly due to her distaste for Birch. Jennifer also wanted to help. She never agreed with Edward and always shunned him due to his favoritism of Haytham. However, if he was going to go up against what remained of the Templars in London, then she wanted to help. Edward knew he couldn't take on Birch alone, especially with all of his Templar followers close by. After all, he'd almost fallen to the men who attacked him in his manor. Edward managed to retrieve his journal along with the chest containing his assassin equipment. Edward continued to train and inform Haytham and Jennifer on the Assassin Order, giving them all the necessary skills he once used in the West Indies. Edward sent letters back and forth for several years to Adewale and Atabai and asked for their aid. This attack could be make or break for the assassins in London. Although the assassins controlled London, they didn't rule it, and control was in the balance. In 1745, with the West Indies fully in assassin control, Atabai allowed for Adewale to travel to London and take a small crew of assassins with him in order to aid Edward. The assassins gathered within the main stronghold in London to finalize their plan to finally attack and take down Birch at his manor. Edward presented Haytham with his old assassin robes and hidden blades, along with the rest of his equipment. And also, along with Miko, Edward pronounced Haytham a master assassin. Although young, Haytham had proved himself a capable fighter and a strong assassin worthy of the title. Edward at this point was in his 50s and was not the man he once was in his youth. He allowed Haytham and Jennifer to lead the assault, with Edward, Miko, and Adewale following close behind. They entered the Templar stronghold at nightfall, making short work of the guards with throwing knives and poisoned darts. Haytham spotted a window with an opening and darted for it. Jenny grabbed him and pulled him behind a wall as she'd spotted a lookout Haytham had missed. Edward scolded him, warning Haytham to take more care. Haytham apologized and they devised a plan to take out two of the lookouts who had appeared from the windows. Luckily, the bodies had been hidden, so that was that problem out of the way. Haytham and Jenny decided to climb either side of the manor in order to assassinate the lookouts simultaneously to minimize possible detection. Edward, Adewale, and Miko stayed back as they had needed a different entrance. Their age had weakened their ability to climb as well as in their youth. Jenny and Haytham hung beneath the windows with the lookouts. They turned their heads and nodded to one another as a prompt to attack. Both reached up and used their hidden blades to impale the lookouts and throw them from the window. Everyone held their breath for a moment, waiting for a guard to discover what had happened, but there was nothing. Jenny and Haytham climbed into the building in order to find an entrance for Edward, Adewale, and Miko, along with the other assassins. It seemed the house was completely silent. Haytham felt something wasn't right. He could see the footsteps of Birch from his gift that his father had taught him how to harness. Haytham thought to follow the footsteps, but stopped himself. He had to put the safety of the Brotherhood first. Haytham and Jenny met up at the entrance of the manor and unlocked the front door to allow the other assassins into the manor. Haytham consulted the other assassins on how to proceed, giving them the knowledge of the footsteps he detected with the use of his honed eagle sense. The assassins followed the footsteps to Birch's study, and using eagle sense, Edward uncovered a hidden passage which seemed to lead beneath the house. Birch knew the assassins were coming. He'd hidden with God knows who or what beneath the manor. They'd come this far and they weren't going to stop now. Edward took the lead from this point with Haytham and Adewale at his side, and the assassins entered the passage. They came to a long dark tunnel only lit by one torch, which Adewale grabbed and led the way into the dark, with Edward and the assassins following close behind. They finally found themselves reaching the end of the tunnel, where they could see Reginald Birch accompanied by his best Templars. Edward called to him asking why he betrayed him all those years ago. Birch told him the truth, that he was seeking knowledge for the Templars. As much as he was fond of Edward, his ambition for discovery of the precursor temple was greater. He needed Edward's journal to discover what the precursors had hidden in the colonies. Edward removed his heavy robes ready for a fight. He pulled out his journal, taunting Birch. "How about you try to take it from me?" Edward mocked with a smirk on his face. "Just like old times, eh, Kenway?" Adewale chuckled, unsheathing his machete. All assassins with their weapons in hand engaged the Templars. Haytham and Jenny together tore through the men easily, Edward taking on Birch head to head while the other assassins handled the extra guards. The fight continued for some time. Both Birch and Edward were old, but both were veterans in their order, with skills not to be matched. Birch called for help, and the Templars broke from their fights and turned their attention to Edward. One Templar opened a wound in Edward's leg, causing him to lose focus. Haytham quickly launched to his father's aid, striking down the man who harmed Edward. Birch used this to his advantage, however, cutting Edward's other leg, causing him to drop to the ground. Haytham and Adewale tried to take out Birch, but the Templars proved too many and were too good of fighters. As Haytham fought to reach Edward, he saw Birch take his sword and impale it through Edward's chest. "If I'm going to die, at least I can know I took Edward Kenway down with me," Birch whispered. Haytham's anger took control, and he tore through the Templars to reach Birch. He tackled Birch to the floor, shouting abuse while continually stabbing him in the face with his hidden blade, until you couldn't even tell it was the same man. Adewale and Miko had to pull Haytham away. As he laid there in a pool of his father's blood, all he could feel was regret and anger. He held his father's body in his arms, and nobody said a word. Silence fell upon the room. A few days later, they had a funeral, and the family mourned the loss of a great man. Haytham was now entrusted with the responsibility of Edward's journal. His mission was now to track down and discover the Grand Temple, and so he boarded a ship, headed for Boston. Thanks for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed. This kind of could go on to a part 2. Where, you see what happens when Haytham, did that. But I felt like this story was more about Edward, and kind of once that was over, it kind of feels like there's no need to continue to tell what happens on with Haytham. But if you want, I can do a continuation of this, where I continue to talk about what I think Haytham would have done when he was in the colony searching for the Grand Temple, and what would have happened there regarding his time there being an assassin rather than being a Templar. But I really do hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to vote in future ones, like I said, follow me on Twitter. Comment down in the comment section below. If you see one you like, give it a thumbs up. That way I'll know what the majority kind of wants. Way easier to judge, and then I'll put the best ones up for a poll on Twitter next time I go ahead and write one. These are super difficult, and of course it is just my opinion based on the way I interpret the characters and the events, just how I think it would turn out. If you think something else would happen, let me know in the comment section below, because this was a super difficult one to do, because I'm not super familiar with the lore surrounding, the Kenway family, especially around, Edward's kind of later life and Haytham's early life. It's kind of a bit hit or miss because there's not too much on it, but I did the best that I possibly could. I hope you guys enjoyed. You've been asking for another one of these for fucking ages, so I do hope you enjoyed this one. But that's it for this video, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!
Leaping from my places, rivers are flowing red. Now we're defying, now we're uniting. Go watching from the skies, these streets are burning up. They're starting fights here. I'm gonna take it to 'em all.